So I think that if we can hear from some of the um, women and drag queens and just people in our community that are doing certain things for the betterment of their lives and for the art of drag, I felt that you are a great representation. And I thought it was my duty because I've been watching you for over 30 years.
Wow.
When I used to come to Montreal all the time to Cox and all of the circuit parties down there and all of that. And I just thought that you really needed to be heard, because I think that when I didn't see you on Canada's Drag Race as a judge, I thought that was a little concerning for me. I'm sure you had your reasons why, or they didn't ask you, or whatever the situation was.
They never ask.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start anything you feel uncomfortable with, you can just say, let's move on to the next question.
Okay, cool.
Now, what's going to happen is this is about you, not about me. I'm going to ask you several different questions, and I want your honest opinion so that way we can educate and inspire our community and those who might not understand us.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stephanie Stevens Show. Thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. Tonight we have the incredible, the First Lady of Drag in Canada. The first woman that I really looked up to and I thought that she did a phenomenal job in drag is Mado Lamotte. So I want to, did I say that right?
Yeah, you had it perfectly.
Okay, and the reason we're having her on the show tonight is because I really feel that I've been watching her for over 30 years. And in Canada, she has a huge following and she has a voice. And I thought that we should hear from her about a lot of the issues that are concerning our community, and the fact that she has her own drag club called Cabaret Mado. Am I right?
Yeah, it's exactly it.
Okay, and I thought we would talk a little bit about the pandemic, the business, how the pandemic affected the business, and about RuPaul's Drag Race and Canada's Drag Race and the impact that it's had on drag, both positive and negative. So I just want to say welcome to the show today, lady. You look fantastic.
Thank you, darling. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm right before my show, so I'm very excited. I'm ready to go.
Okay, well, we won't keep you too long. I want to first say that you are a great inspiration. And the fact that you have kept that show going in Montreal all these years, and you have set the standard and branded your look. This is something that is amazing.
That's very nice of you to say that. I've been doing the job for 35 years, going on 36 this summer. Whew, it's a long run.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Cabaret Mado. Now, were you born in Montreal? Well, let's talk about you for a minute. Were you born in Montreal?
I'm born and raised in Montreal. Actually, the boy behind that makeup was born in Rosemont, which is a popular area of Montreal. Working class. Is nothing too fancy. My parents were very, very nice and average people. No, not a rich family, not a poor family, just right in the middle. So I got a really easy youth, and growing up, I wanted to do theater, and I prefer. My God, I'm trying to put a French word in English. I went to theater to drag queen, actually. So for me, Mado is kind of my own act. It's the character I'm playing since 36 years this year. So it's a big job. It's a fun job. It's a big accomplishment, and I really love doing it. Even still after all these years, I'm not done. Oh no, I'm not done.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now let's talk a little bit about the Montreal's drag scene. Now we know that, because back in the day when I used to come to Montreal all the time, I used to see a lot of the Circus Soleil, the guy, I forgot what his name was, that used to run Circus Soleil. It had a lot of artistic drag like what you do.
You're talking about Guy La Liberté, I think.
Yes.
The guy who owns actually, the Cirque du Soleil is full of clown that looks actually, half of them look like drag, boy drags, girls drag.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to mix gender. And when you go see those kind of show, you don't see gender, you don't see a man, a girl, you see a performer, an artist. And I think drag is the same thing. What we're doing, it's you see it first, it's an art. It's not a way of living for me. It's an art. It's a way of performing. It's my own little theater, like my own Cirque du Soleil, my cabaret, like you said. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the drag in Montreal. Now, what is the difference between the drag in Montreal and let's just say what you would see in the US or you would see even in Toronto, where I live?
If you had asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said probably it's very different. But because of all those contests, those reality show about drag queens, it became a little bit more mainstream than it used to be. Not mainstream, but I mean, it's starting to look like the rest of the world. The girls, they're pretty. The girls are very polished. There's the difference is probably the language we speak, which brings us to do probably more comedy. I don't know. I've not been to Toronto in a while, but when I travel around the world and I see drag shows, sometimes drag shows are very serious. They're becoming more and more serious. And we keep doing comedy here. And there's a lot of drag queens that comes with dancers. They like to make it a full little theater show. But not because of all these drag race contests. The girls, personally, I find that they looking more and more like there's an international way of looking, I would say.
Now, let's talk about, was the winner this year from Montreal?
Drag
Race? The winner from Drag Race Canada, was she from Montreal?
The winner of season 3, the last season, was Gisèle Lullaby. She's from Montreal and she started here at Cabaret Mado. And we're very, very proud of her. Even like the first year, Rita Baga, who came on 3rd or 2nd, she was born here at the Cabaret Mado. So we have a lot of good talent coming from my place.
Why didn't they ask you to be a judge on the show?
I think it's because they don't want drag queens as judges. That's what I've been told. Because usually if they have drag queens, they go as a boy. They don't go in full drag. And since I don't want to show myself under that makeup, that's not what it is. My character is an entity. So if I would go to Drag Race, I would be pleased to go. But it would be maybe if they don't want to judge, I would be willing to go to the workroom and give them some advices, talk about my career and share some tips.
Well, I think that you should do something on that show because you are Canada's first lady of drag and you are a big presence in the gay community all around Canada. And this is something that we need to look into. But let's talk a little bit more serious now, because I want your honest opinion about this. Let's talk about show fees. Not that we're going to talk about numbers, but we're going to talk about when you bring the drag race queens or any celebrity queen to the city. Now you have the locals who have always supported your bar, you always book on a regular basis. Now these other queens are coming, whether they're coming on a regular basis or a non-regular basis. How do you justify the fees when these girls, 90% of the locals have got the applications from RuPaul's Drag Race or Canada's Drag Race and saw what the fees are that they are charging to book the girls?
I know that we cannot compete with these girls. I cannot give $2,000 to drag queens in my bar, and I don't know if that's what they get as a fee. But they usually go to bigger venue so they can have more people, they can charge more. But I'm lucky because the girls, they're quite the local girls are quite faithful to the place. And even some girls from RuPaul came to my bar to perform. We didn't have to charge so much at the door. They were kind of like reasonable prices. But now since they have those big tour with 10 drag queens, it's very expensive to hire 10 drag queens probably. So they charge like $70, $80. I've heard that if you want to go see Ben de la Creme or like Jinx Monsoon, you can go to $200 as a ticket. I find it a bit not overpriced, but it's a bit, it's for me, it's wild because if we charge $20 here, people will say it's too expensive for a drag show. And they're willing to pay $200 another place for another drag queen that comes from abroad or because she was on TV. This, I think, is not fair for us local queen that the big don't want to pay because we were not on TV or we're not famous as a let's say those drag queens from RuPaul. That's a bit sad. That's the reality, but it's also a plus for us because since the public go to see this show, when they're not in town, they want to see the local queen. And where did the local queen? Cabaret Mado.
Now, I know, I'm glad you were open and honest about that because I've asked a few other the girls, and I had Jasmine Masters on the show, and she talked a little bit about that. You know, it's better when if you're going to book her, come talk to her directly. That way you're not getting these absorbent amount of fees and all this stuff. You can talk to her and she can decide what she wants to do when she wants to book herself out, which I thought was respectful. Now, let's talk about you for a minute. Now, you've been performing 35 years. Now, I know how did the pandemic affect your cabaret?
I guess like everybody else, every other bars, we were like closed for a year almost. The time of the curfew we had a curfew in Quebec. I don't know if you had the same in Ontario, but we couldn't go out after midnight in the streets. So when the bar was open, we did the show earlier, and we made sure that patrons leave before 11:30 so they could be home by 12. And when they cut us completely, so we were like, of course, losing a lot of money. The girls were without jobs. I did a lot of video by myself at my home with my cats and my iPhone. And it was fun to do it because I kept contact with the public. I got a lot of nice reaction. Even now, the people who don't travel much because they live outside Montreal, they tell me, are you going to do more videos? Because we miss you. It was fun during the pandemic. We saw you more than we would ever see you because we live so far from your cabaret. And I'm like, I try, but I cannot do both, you know, working at night and shooting during the day. It's a bit too much for me. The lady not so young anymore.
Me either. I mean, I am lucky that I have the show that they're now going to put on network television. So, and I wanted you to be a part of that. I thought, well, why did they leave Mado out? Now, let's talk about a little bit about what you plan on doing now. Has the business picked up at Mado? Has it gotten better?
Oh my God, more than better. We're sold out every weekend. We have a hard time to find a free night for people who wants to do their own show. We're booked till October, November now. It's like amazing. The reaction is amazing because the people miss so much going out, I guess. And we improved the quality of the shows. And because I'm paying more the drag queens, we're charging more at the door. We started the show. We're starting the show earlier because of the pandemic. We kept the hours early. So people now, they say, oh, we don't have to go out at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning to see drag queens. They come at 9 o'clock. They're home before midnight. So we attract more people this way and more serious people who are willing to pay $25 to get in and to have a nice bottle of wine and have a good time. They sit, they listen. It's not a bar anymore. It's a real cabaret. People are respectful. This is a big change from before when people would come just to check 10 minutes of a show and leave, stand up. Then they used not to listen to our show. Now it's a real cabaret. They sit down and they listen. And I'm like, it's about this
should be something amazing for you as a host. That's what you want them to do.
That's what I want them to do. I want them to listen to me. I've been doing this job for so long. And the first 25 years, I would say, every time I would speak on the microphone, there was always people like speaking at the same time, shouting things at me, like in a bar. This was normal. But we slowly we put in the people's mind that the cabaret is a real venue for shows. It's not a dancing place anymore. You don't dance between the shows anymore. There's an intermission like at the theater, and after the show you can jump on stage and dance, but that's it. We don't want to advertise it as a bar, because this is the way the people used to think of, oh, we can go there, have a drink and blah blah blah, chat during the show, not even looking at it, and leave when we want. No, people pay for a ticket, they sit down 2 hours and they don't leave. I love it. Love it.
That is amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, you know, you're such a great inspiration. I'm really awestruck, because I love watching your shows online. And now that I'm getting to actually speak to you in person, this is something that's amazing. And when my agent, she says, I want you to reach out to Mado and get her on the show. So I said, well, you know, she's probably busy and stuff. But then when I saw you online, I thought, oh, maybe we can get her on the show. So now let's talk a little bit about the security. Now, you know, in the States, there's a lot going on with the right-wing groups trying to beat up the drag queens and all this kind of stuff. Are you worried about security at Cabaret Mado?
No, I'm not, because I think Montreal it's not Tennessee. Like we are in Canada. I'm confident that nothing's gonna happen here. That there's no big movement against drag queen here. We hear about people who wants to do like little demonstration against drag queens, but they don't have followers. Maybe there's a small group of 10, 20 people on Facebook like just talking against drag queen, but it's not a big thing. The only thing that happened here this past year, there's a drag queen called Barbada. She used to be on Call Me Mother, that show on YT and Out TV, and she reads for kids in public library in school, and some parents, they were complaining about drag queens reading to children, but that's the only thing that we heard about, like people being against drag queen. And she even went on TV, talked about it on some local news, but nothing bad happens after that. You know, there was no demonstration, there was no boycott. I know we're not what I would put it on. We're not secure 100%, but we always watch our back just in case something happens. Still, right now, there's no cue of whatever that I heard from someone or somewhere that there's a movement moving to Montreal against drag queen. And I don't think it's moving to Canada either, because we're more open-minded than most of the redneck states of the United States, you know, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, well, you know, this is a good thing that we are pretty good here in Toronto. In the summertime, my show is traveling to the US. So the agent was a little bit concerned about that, but I'm kind of glad that I am going to be doing a little bit of traveling here. So maybe along the line, I will contact you again, because maybe you can pop up in one of the shows. And we will talk about that later on. You know, Mado, it was wonderful chatting with you tonight. But this is just a little interview. I know you have a show to get to, and we're going to let you get to it. I just want to say, in closing, can you give us what you think the young people, some advice to the young people today?
Oh my God, it's so hard to talk to the young people now, because they know everything. No, what I tell my young drag queens at the cabaret, tell them, try to be original, try to be yourself, but try to build up a character of your own. Don't copy other drag queens. Make your own, your name, your own name, you know, like make your own thing. Because there's so many girls that look alike. You want the public to see someone different. You want the public to say, I like her. She's not like the other one we just saw before. And also I tell them, you need to be very disciplined. This is not a joke. This is such a job between two jobs. Of course, sometimes you need to have a day job because it's not paying enough to do just drag. But you have to take this as a work, as an art, as something serious. It's not, for me, it's not something you do like on the side. If you want to do that job, you need to invest yourself, because it's a lot of work. It's hard. It's expensive, and sometimes it's hard on the morale. I don't know if that's the right word.
You said it right. It's hard on the morale. You're right. And I just, I want to just say thank you so much for doing this for us. I want you to have a fantastic show tonight. And thank you for just keep doing what you're doing. You've had a great impact on a lot of people's lives. You might not realize that a lot of people do watch you. The English people do watch you and they admire you. When they do go to Montreal, they do go to your shows. And like you said, most of the time they were back there just dancing and running out the door to go to the other clubs or wherever. But you are well respected in this country. And don't think we in Toronto don't see you, because we do. And we see the good work and the fabulous shows that you do. And I want to just say, I take my wig off to you because I think you're fabulous. And I want you to have a great night tonight. And I want to just say thank you for doing the show for us.
I will have a great night. Thank you for that interview. And anytime you're welcome to come to see me, and or I will go see in Toronto, and let's have fun together.
Okay. And let me just say this to my audience. Tonight we had Mado Lamotte on the show from Cabaret Mado in Montreal, Canada. And she gave us her take on what she thinks should happen, and advice to the young kids about drag today. And she's been in the business for over 35 years. And so we wanted just a little bit of advice to the young kids. And she told them to just be yourself and create your own magic. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for supporting Pronoun TV and the Stephanie Stevens Show. Things are great. And now coming up in April, we will have That Girl from Orange County podcast. So things are happening for us. Stay strong, keep up the good fight. And we want to say to Mado, thank you very much and have a great show. Good night.